Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and friends of clean energy, it is a great pleasure to join you today at the European Geothermal Summit 2025. This year's theme, Geothermal Cities, Making the European Geothermal Action Plan Unlock Local Investments, speaks directly to one of the most strategic and forward-looking opportunities of our time: how to turn our clean energy potential into real, secure, domestically sourced and locally rooted solutions. In my work at the European Parliament, particularly within the Committee on Industry, Research and Energy, we have been advocating for greater recognition and prioritization of geothermal energy. And I'm pleased to see that this conversation is becoming mainstream and steadily gaining momentum. Now, more than ever, it is crucial that we seize the moment and translate our calls and commitments into concrete actions. To do so, we need to ensure that the geothermal energy is treated as an integral part of EU's energy and resilience policies. It must be fostered and promoted as a domestic value chain that brings affordable, sustainable energy to support the competitiveness objectives. Regulatory incentives are needed for the uptake of this invaluable resource and for geothermal to take its rightful place as a cornerstone of Europe's renewable energy mix. Why geothermal, and why now? In a rapidly changing geopolitical environment, energy is no longer just about markets and emissions. It's about resilience, sovereignty, and long-term security. Russia's aggression against Ukraine painfully reminded us that our energy dependency can be weaponized. That is why it is now crucial for the European Union to double down on our own comparative advantages. And as outlined in Draghi's report, geothermal is one of the few remaining areas where Europe has an advantage. This is an energy source that is clean, renewable, domestically sourced, reliable, and long-term affordable. It operates year-round, does not depend on weather conditions, and offers a stable base load complementing other renewables like wind and solar. Moreover, it can be an engine for local economic development. If we are serious about energy independence and strategic resilience, we must invest in the solutions that we control beneath our own feet. This is where the European Geothermal Action Plan comes in. It must be more than a roadmap. It must become a catalyst for investment, especially at the local level. Cities and regions across Europe, notably Central and Eastern Europe, the Danube Basin, and the Adriatic hinterland, possess high geothermal potential but lack access to financing, both private and public. So we need to bridge that gap. That means unlocking EU funding instruments, but also simplifying permitting procedures and enhancing cross-border transfer of best practices. Therefore, the EU should already include critical elements relevant to geothermal projects in the Industrial Decarbonization Accelerator Act. Crucially, the uptake of geothermal energy requires addressing one of the main barriers to investment: the high upfront risk of geothermal drilling. This is why the EU should look to establish a dedicated financial mechanism to de-risking in the future decarbonization bank. Also, an EU-backed risk insurance scheme supported by the European Investment Bank could provide coverage for the initial phases of drilling, promoting investments, attracting private capital, and significantly scaling up geothermal deployment across the continent. Finally, the Clean Industrial State Aid Framework and guidelines for disbursement and reprogramming of RRF should reflect clear commitment to the adequate promotion of geothermal energy and recognize the need of the sector for more comprehensive funding. Geothermal must become a standard, not an exception. In the European Parliament, I will continue to advocate for a framework that supports geothermal deployment while ensuring that the local communities remain at the center of the transition. This is not only about climate goals, it is about jobs, innovation, and industrial renewal in places that need it most. Let us not forget, geothermal is not just a technology, it is a strategy for Europe's future, clean, secure, and sovereign. Let us act accordingly. Thank you very much.